Hello, everyone. My name is David James. I'm the founder of ChloroEarth, Rebuilding with Nature, and also a member of DLC's Global ESG Committee. Today, I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic, and that is reversing the tipping point of climate change and its possible solutions. But before we talk about reversing, I think it's practical to ask ourselves, what are the odds of actually meeting this challenge? Now, if you're listening or viewing me in July of 2022, you probably know that the earth is burning up and there are many countries just roasting under the heat. Now, under this roasting, what's happening is people are referring to this heat as the Great Indian Summer. Now, imagine what an Indian summer would be in India in April and May of 2022, when the temperature reached, in some places, as high as 60 degrees. If you consider what's happening in Europe, you have the infrastructure actually melting under your feet. Most of this infrastructure was built at ambient temperatures 10 or 15 degrees less than what they're facing today of the summer of 2022. Which means scientists are telling us this is not an exceptional event. You're going to see and feel the heat far more frequently in the future till it becomes permanent. And that implies that countries are going to reinvest trillions of dollars to reestablish and repair their infrastructure from scratch. The tipping point that we've been referring to is when the global temperature rises by 1.5 degrees. And if we hit that tipping point, there is absolutely no turning back. This is clearly a clear and present danger that we are facing today. But I want to assure the viewers and listeners that it's not all bad. We have solutions out there which is settled science. And if implemented with the right will and capital, we can actually reverse that tipping point. So what exactly is happening? What is climate change? Simply put, it's the building of carbon or the greenhouse gas which is really heating up Earth and why the roads are melting under your feet. Now, you can't stop wildfires or volcanoes erupting because that's the way nature behaves. But certainly we need to look at human activity. And human activity is built on entropy. And entropy, if I can put it simply, is you need to destroy something to build something. And this is a very critical point of what humans have been doing, at least for 200 or 300 years. Can we reverse entropy? Certainly. If you're going to destroy something, let's try and look at renewable resources which can actually change that equation of entropy. Reversing entropy is not rocket science. We've got clear mathematical models which can address almost every aspect of your supply chain. But what exactly do we need to do? Can we identify raw materials which can actually replace the entropic sources of our balance sheet? So I'm going to refer to two examples, one which has shown some success and some where we need to really look at. And the first one that I'd like to point out is the fossil fuel industry. And truth be told, we've been concerned about the fossil fuel industry for about decades now. And I'm glad to see there are electric vehicles on the road, and we have gotten different solutions other than the internal combustion engine. Now, I don't expect that we would have internal combustion engines on our roads in the next 10 or 12 years. And we're going to have incredible amount or types of vehicles which lowers our carbon footprint, including the move to intelligent public transport. But I do want to point out another industry which really bears attention. And that's the timber industry, which goes to buildings. And the other industry, which is the paper and pulp industry, which eviscerates forests. Here's the problem. The forest industry or the timber industry, or what we refer to the paper industry, is as large as the fossil industry. And it's controlled by very few players. It's unregulated. And we do know that if you take our trees off the planet, which are our lungs, you're completely destroying the carbon cycle. What exactly can we do to actually mitigate that loss of forestation? So I'm going to give you a little example of what we did in ChloroEarth in India to try to address this change. When I went out on the length and breadth of India, I was struck by the probability that I'm going to meet farmers who are on the verge of committing suicide because of loss of income. And what I discovered when I was talking to them, including NGOs, is they have lost crop diversity. They have moved to crop monoculture, like rice and wheat. And if everybody is growing similar crops, you're creating an oversupply. And as you know, oversupply crashes the prices. When prices crash, they don't get enough income to sustain themselves and actually pay off the debt. That's the root of farmer suicide in India. What we did is actually introduce a very important concept called industrial ecology. And simply put, what industrial ecology tries to do is look at agricultural produce and agricultural residue as a raw material for an industrial application. The produce from agriculture and agricultural residue can be harvested in 90 days and is continuously renewable. And I was shocked to know that we have produce which can go into the paint industry, the oil industry, and many other industries which lower our dependency on the fossil fuel. That's about $4.5 to $5 billion in India alone. But we throw it away because we've not given an opportunity to the farmers to monetize this. In our work, when I was looking at the building industry, or what we can do to replace timber, hardwoods, which go into the building industry, we identified what I would call tall grasses like sorghum, elephant grass, which can compete with plywood, and MDF, which is about 15% of cladding in the structural business. That's about $30 billion worldwide. There is another opportunity which I'm quite startled to tell you about, because there was a tragic incident in Florida where a tower fell down and killed many people. It might surprise you to know that you don't need to build a skyscraper with Portland cement or steel. Because what happened in Florida was, or rather they identified the cause as corrosion of their steel rebars. You know, you could actually build a skyscraper and buildings with geopolymers which are under your feet. You could replace steel rebars with basalt. The point that I'm trying to make is we've got settled science in almost every industry which could reduce the carbon footprint. So what's the problem? The problem, I feel, is that many of us, especially the powers that be, that banks and very large corporates, lack patient capital. And that arises from a conflict of looking for financial returns as opposed to planetary returns. Financial returns require returns to come as short as 90 days or perhaps 1 year, because that's what you require to report to your shareholders. But planetary returns takes far longer. Your investment or return on investment comes back after 5 or 7 years. But imagine this, sirs, ladies and gentlemen, if we have the will and the capital expenditure to put into planetary solutions rather than consumption, then yes, we can reverse the tipping point of climate change. And I'm sure all of you are trying to reduce your carbon footprint in every aspect of your supply chain. And I'll be happy to answer them if you can ask me any questions where your industry stands and how we can improve the balance sheet and make the planet a better place for our grandchildren and our grandchildren's grandchildren. Thank you for your time and for DLC for giving me the opportunity to present these insights. And if you or your company wants to make a positive impact in the industry you're in, please be free to contact any of us, and I will be the first to respond how we can actually make a positive impact. So again, thank you very much.